Well, welcome to Motivation Church. So excited that you all are here today. My name is Travis. I'm the lead pastor here, and we are excited that you're here today. We're a church that we're about 6 months old, and we've already seen God do amazing things in our church. And I want to encourage you to just before you leave today, just if you are a first timer here today, to fill out the guest connection card that's in the seat pocket in front of you. Man, we'd love to give you a free t-shirt and just send you a letter and say thank you for coming to our church. And the Holy Spirit is moving in the lights. Come on, somebody. So, hey, we've been in a series called The Good Life, and the idea of this series is this. It's that we have a life that's offered by Jesus, and it's for us. And it's really cool. We've been hanging out with this one particular verse that we've been hanging out for the last 4 weeks, and today concludes the series. It's found in the book of John, chapter 10, verse 10, and it says this: "And the thief comes only to steal, to kill, and destroy, but I have come that you may have life, and have life to the full." And that's a powerful scripture, but really, if you read it in the Greek context, it actually reads differently from what the English version could read it. In fact, we have to put it that way to really make sense for us. But really, if you break it and interpret it word by word, it really says this: I have a great life and a life that's full for you, and the enemy, because of that, wants to come and to kill, to steal, and destroy. Meaning this, that Jesus has this life for you, and the goal of Satan and the goal of the enemy of your soul is to make sure that the life that he has for you, you don't grab it, that you don't touch it. And at our church, and as an encouragement for us, we want you to have everything that God has for you. If he has it for you, it is for you, and we want you to grasp it, grab it. And so the reason why we're in this series is because we just don't want you to walk through life not walking in the full life that God has for you. And it's really cool because this particular verse is really, he's addressing Pharisees, and in the context of which the setting of this verse, there are Pharisees in town, there were sinners in town, and the Pharisees were giving Jesus a hard time for what he was doing and the work that he was doing to sinners. And so Jesus says, hey, this makes sure you know that I don't come here for you to do church as normal. I don't come here so you can come in here, have a religious setting, then go home the same way. But I have come so that you can have life, and have life to the full. And so we've been in this series, and week 1, we talked about the road to the good life. And the road that we take to the good life is the road of worship. We are to be worshipers, right? If we want to experience all that God has for our life, we have to be people who worship, even in the midst of hard times, even in times when it seems like we have nothing to thank God for. We have to be worshipers. Week 2, we talked about, last week, we talked about this idea that we serve a God of celebration. And we look at Jesus' first miracle that he ever did. Like his first miracle, he made a statement. It could have been he healed somebody. He could have been he gave somebody a breakthrough, or he could have been he had somebody who was demonic and had a demon inside them. He was casting that demon out. It could have been all those different things. But Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine, and it has everything to do with man's enjoyment. And the idea is that if you want to have a good life, the attitude in which we are to have is the attitude of celebration. Jesus is always celebrating. And the reason why we can celebrate in all seasons of our lives is because we have God. And we have the greatest thing that God can ever give us, right? And like, if you think about all the prayers that you're praying right now, like some of you could be praying some big prayers, like, God, give me a better job. God, give me a spouse. If you're in high school here, God, help me graduate, Lord. Like, you could be praying all these different prayers, but the greatest prayer that you can ever pray has already been answered, and that is, you have God in your life. And the best thing that God can offer you is not a breakthrough. It's not forgiveness. The best thing that he can offer you is himself. And that's what he's already given you. And so this is why we can celebrate at all times. And we don't have to wait. The cool thing about this series is for everybody, because sometimes we equate the good life for financial stability. And I pray that that's a result of the good life, but that's not the good life. And sometimes we equate the good life as maybe you having this perfect family, you have your kids and you're married and you got this perfect, great family, but that's not the good life that Jesus is talking about. In fact, the good life is nothing to do with something physical. It's all to do with something spiritual and how he wants to redirect your heart towards himself. So this is where we've been at. But today I want to talk to you about, if there's a title for today's sermon, it is the practice of the good life. We talked about the road, we talked about the attitude, but today I want to talk to you about the practice of the good life. What do you practice? What do you do to experience the good life that God has for you? And this practice that I want to talk to you about is the practice of giving, right? Giving. And I'm not just talking about like money. I'm talking about your time, your talents, and your money, right? Time, talents, and money. And I know, and we're a new church, and I'm very reluctant to talk about the topic of giving, even when we talk about time or your talents. Here's why. Because people have a misunderstanding of that, and sometimes churches or people in the past has used this topic to manipulate people or to cause people and have ulterior motives. But let me tell you, I have no ulterior motive for you except for you to walk in the good life that God has for you. And I want to encourage you that this is all in a heart for you to walk in this good life in this topic of giving. So sometimes like preachers can have like different motives, right? I remember the story of a Baptist preacher who was kind of out in his church, and he called his church members in on a Sunday morning, and he says, whoever give $1,000 can choose 3 hymns. And so he said that again. He said, whoever gives $1,000, you can choose 3 hymns that we're going to sing back to back to back. And so there was this older lady in the back, and she kind of raised her hand and said, well, I'll give the $1,000 so I can choose the 3 hymns. So she goes to the front of the altar, and she gives the pastor the $1,000, and literally she turned around and says, I'll take him, and I'll take him. I'm not like a Baptist preacher, all right? I'll have no motives but this for you to be blessed in your life. I want to talk to you about giving today. And the 3 things I want to talk to you about is your time, your talents, and your money, right? Because if you're going to experience the good life that Jesus has for you, man, you're going to have to walk in this idea of you giving unto God your time, your talents, and your money. And we're going to talk about those 3 things today. And there's one definition that I want to give on the topic of giving to kind of set the stage for us today. When I talk about giving, I'm saying for you to live with open hands. You taking your time and you're looking at the 24 hours that God is giving you, right? Like He's giving you 24 hours each day. You're opening your hands to God and say, God, here is my day. What do you want me to do with it? Right? Or when it comes to our talents or our personalities, all of you got talents that God has given you, right? And so what you're saying to God, God, here's what you gifted me with, right? No matter who you are in here, He's gifted you with something, right? And His idea is, hey, you're going to God and say, God, here is my gifts. Here is my talents, my personality. You tell me what to do with it because it's yours. You gave it to me. Right? Or the same with money. You're saying to God, God, here is my money, right? This is your money that you blessed me with. You tell me, what am I to do with this money? Do you want me to buy a house? Do you want me to bless my neighbor across the street? Do you want me to bless my neighbor next to me? Do you want me to bless my coworker with it, or my kids with it, or a family member with it, right? You taking your money and you saying to God, here as it is, my hands are open. It's all yours. And so this is what giving is when we talk about, is living life with open hands. Because we know this, whenever you give God your best, He automatically blesses the rest, right? And so this is why we want to be people or a church that continually give into our community and give to our neighbors. Here's why. Because we have understood the practice and the principle of giving God our time, our talents, and our money. So there are 3 reasons why you should give. And the first reason is this. You should give because it helps you get your eyes off of you. It helps you get your eyes off of you. And sometimes like in life, like we are always so focused on what we're dealing with and what we're going through and what we're suffering through and what we need. And what giving does is for a moment, you're no longer worried about what's going on in your life. You're completely focused on what's going on in somebody else's life. You're giving unto them. You're giving your time and your talents or your treasure, your money, right? And that's so important. In our American culture, we have been taught to focus on us. To build us, to build our kingdom, to give unto us, right? To make sure that we're good, to make sure that we're going to give unto, make sure that our lives are good, make sure our families are good, right? But really, the Bible teaches opposite, right? I love one of the greatest verses of all time. It's found in John chapter 3, verse 16, and it says this, and for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. So here's the deal. Like the foundation of the gospel is all about giving, right? When you look at the gospel of Jesus, it's all about you giving unto God what is already his, because he's already given unto you what even we don't deserve. And so that's the foundation of the gospel, is that we serve a giving God, right? And the idea is this, like if we want to be givers, it really helps us to get our eyes off our own lives, right? It helps us to focus on somebody else, right? So the other day I'm hanging out in my house, and I have two daughters, one's 7 and one's 4. And so I walk into my eldest daughter's room, right? I'm walking into the room, and literally all I ask her to do, guys, no joke, I ask her to pick up her clothes off the floor and put them on a dresser. And I don't know why, like this new generation of kids, they feel like that's a big deal, right? And I don't know about you, but I grew up and my mom would make us cut the grass with scissors. You know what I mean? Like we would be out on Saturday morning scrubbing the floor, mopping the floor. Like, I mean, anybody else kind of see that? Like we worked hard when we were younger, but these days, these kids, like picking up the clothes is like was a small deal for us, but for my daughter, it's like this big deal. And so literally, I come into the room, and I said, hey, Jalen, I want you to pick up your clothes. She said, Daddy, I just can't, Daddy. And she's having a panic attack because I'm asking her to pick up clothes. I'm like, really, Jalen, having a panic attack over clothes? And so literally, I asked her to do it, and she ended up doing it. She said, but Daddy, I got 3 more shows to watch on my iPad. I'm like, are you kidding me, really? Girl, pick those clothes up, girl. Anyways, so I tell you that story, here's why. Because sometimes our home is really messy because my daughter or some other individuals in the home, we're focusing on our own selves. But when we live a life that's focused on everybody else and focused on others, here's what happens. Your community gets changed. Your neighborhood gets changed. Your nation gets changed. And the reason why we're dealing what we're dealing with right now as a community, the reason why Chesterfield County and Richmond City is dealing what we're dealing with, because there's a generation of people who's focused on themselves, right? And so our eyes are on us. But when we are outward looking to what God is doing in everybody else's life and how we can bless everybody else, here's what happened as a result. As a result, our community gets changed, right? Our city gets changed. Like your family gets changed. Like all of our lives gets changed when we understand the concept that giving helps us get our eyes off ourselves. If we can just for a moment get our eyes off of somebody else, and this is why as a church we want to invest in other churches in our community. This is why as a church, man, we want to plant more churches in the city of Richmond and in Chesterfield County, because we know this principle. If we can give and it helps us get our eyes off of us and forget about what's happening here at this church and bless somebody else, as a result, we become blessed. And I want to encourage you that giving helps you get your eyes off of yourself. Man, it helps you not to be selfish. Secondly is this. Giving helps you be a good steward of what God has given you, right? It helps you be a good steward of what God has given you. It reminds you to take care of what you already have, right? It reminds you to say, you know what, God, you have given me this. I am going to take care of this. It was funny the other day. I made a lifelong commandment to my youngest daughter, Jada. I told her, you will never, ever, 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 ever touch my iPhone again. Never again. And the reason why I make that decision, because, you know, I got this new iPhone right here, and iPhone X, and it's way overpriced, too much money, but it is a good phone. Apple is the best phone. Apple is God's phone anyway. But anyway, so I had this phone, and so the other day I gave her my phone. Daddy, I want to watch a show. Hey, watch a show on the phone. She grabs my phone, and literally, she takes the phone. She's watching the show. I said, Jada, I need my phone. And she throws my phone across the room, like before I can catch it. Well, I didn't catch it, so it dropped. And luckily, I had like this screen protector, so I have a little crack on my screen protector, because she don't know the value of this phone because she didn't pay for it. And she don't know that it costs a lot of money to pay for a phone. And I told her, I said, you can never have my phone again. And she said, Daddy, why? You don't love me? I said, it's not that I don't love you. I don't trust you. You know what I mean? Because you don't know the value of what the phone that you're holding. And some of you, you're asking God for more. You're asking God for a pay raise. You're asking God for a job. You're asking God for a spouse. You're asking God for a kid. And God is saying, hey, it's not that I don't love you. I just don't trust you with what you already have. And if we're gonna be people who walk in this good life, God says, what are you doing what I've already given you, right? Somebody the other day saw me, they saw me the other day like picking up trash on the side of the road of this very building. And why are you picking up trash? I said, you know what? I want to be found faithful in God's eyes for the building that he's gave us, right? Right? This building may not be perfect, but I want to be found faithful in God's eyes because one day, I know it, one day in the future, God's going to look down on Richmond, Virginia, and he's going to see this 1,000-member auditorium that's pristine, that's perfect, and he's going to look for somebody who's been faithful with what they already have. And when he sees that, he's going to see Motivation Church. Come on, somebody, let's go. I just want to be faithful with it. Like I told a story in first service when I graduated college. You know how you graduate with college with the wrong expectations? Like, because when I graduated college, I thought they told me when I graduate college, I'm going to get a job right after college making about $50,000 a year, right? That's what they told me. That's how they got me in. They tricked me. They conned me, right? So anyways, I graduated college. So this job, we're in downtown Orlando, Florida, where my wife and I was living at the time. It kind of fell through. And so I went on Google, looked for any job. This is a paid bill. We already signed this lease in this condo in downtown Orlando. And so we signed the lease, and I looked for a job, and the first thing that came up was Home Depot. Come on, somebody, Home Depot. So literally, I get to Home Depot, I start working there, and I tell you what, I was so depressed. I was so mad because, you're on Facebook and social media, and you're looking at everybody else's life. Right? Everybody else's marriage, everybody else's family, everybody else, what their blessings and what God's doing in their lives. And I was so disappointed. And I just remember walking into Home Depot day after day, like, man, why am I doing this? God, I went to school. I didn't go to school for this, right? I remember one night, I'm driving home. I broke down on the side of the road, I-4, the main highway that goes through Orlando. I never forget, I'm on the side of the road, and I'm crying out to God. I said, God, my car's broken down. Like, I'm working at this job at Home Depot. I'm far away from home. And God, what am I doing? And I remember God spoke to me and said, hey, I want you to make the most of the life that I've given you right now. So you should saw me the next day, right? I went to Home Depot. I ironed my khaki pants. I had a crease in my pants. Back in the days, you used to have creases in your pants, right? Like some of you say, I still got creases in my pants. And I got my khakis on that day. I went into Home Depot with a new swagger. You know what I mean? I went there like just excited and making the most of the opportunity. And we were supposed to get 2 credit cards every 2 weeks. Man, I was giving 3 credit cards a day. Man, I'm telling you what, I was getting everybody in debt. I didn't care. I was doing my job good. Just doing it. Come on, somebody. I made a commitment. Say, God, you know what? I may not have that dream job that I want. I may not have what I want, but what I'm going to do is be a great steward what you're giving me right now, because I know if I be found faithful with the small and faithful what you put in front of me, God, I know that you're going to bless me. And if you want to walk in a good life, a given life teaches you to be a good steward of what you already have. And some of you have been praying prayers, say, God, give me more. And God says, what are you doing with what you already have? And that's what giving does, right? Giving teaches stewardship, right? When you give, the more you realize, oh, I got to steward this. I got to have a budget. I got to look at my time. I got to manage my time. I got to manage my talents. God, what am I giving to God's kingdom? Well, how's my personality helping out God's kingdom? How is my gifts helping out God's kingdom? How is the time that I'm using and spending, is it helping people out? You begin to be a steward of your time, talents, and money once you understand the idea of giving. I love, I want to, you go to this one scripture found in Galatians, if you can for me. Galatians 5, verse 13, it says, life by the Spirit, you, my brothers and sisters, you were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge in to the flesh, right? Rather, serve one another humbly in love. So here's what that scripture is saying. I have called you to be free, but your flesh don't want you to be free. Your flesh wants you to make mistakes. And the way you overcompensate your flesh is by serving one another. Isn't that crazy? Like, if you want to overcome some struggles in your life, you don't pray your way out of struggles. You give your way out of struggles, right? You serve your way out of struggles. And I believe that if we're going to be people of God who's going to walk in the life that God has for us, man, we're going to be people who give our way out of these things, right? Because God begins to do special things in your life when you become a giver. So not only does giving right, helps us get our eyes off of ourselves. Not only does giving helps us to be a good steward of what we already have, right? And I just want to, maybe for a moment, just for you to understand that stewardship is all about you understanding what you have, right? And if you understand what you have, like you have 24 hours of a day, so what are you giving to God? So the reason why we, going to my third point, my last point is this. The last point is this. Not only do we, giving helps us to understand where we're at, and gets our eyes off of us and helps us to be great stewards, but also it helps us to give God what's his. And here's the deal with this. When we give God what's his, when we give God our lives, when we give him our time, right? When we give him our day, say, God, this is my day. You tell me what to do with it. I'm going to go to work. I'm gonna go hang out with my family. I'm gonna sleep, And what times are you giving God? And the reason why, as a church, we have a strong commitment of prayer and a strong commitment of reading your word is because we want to make a decision and a statement to God that, God, we really, really, really want to give you our time and some of our day, right? And the reason why we come to church on the first day of the week is not that we want to have this religious experience every Sunday. What we're saying to God is that, God, you've given me 7 days of the week, and so I'm going to give you 2 hours of this week to come to church, right? And I know the difficulty of coming to church. I got young kids, and I know it is we are on a struggle bus every single Sunday morning. For some reason why, our kids are always the most tired on Sunday mornings, especially if you got young kids in here. Coming to church is work, right? You got to, first of all, get up. You've been working all week long, right? Some of you have been working jobs 12 hours a day for 6 days a week, and Sunday's your only day off, and you got to get up. And then you got to get these young, crazy kids ready. I feel like with my kids, I got to lasso my kids in the morning on Sunday morning. They're just wild, right? And they're wearing mismatched socks, and I don't care. Just get ready. Get in the car, girl. Let's go to church, right? And it's just all this stuff that it takes to get to church. But why we do it because, God, you've given us 7 days. God, I'm going to give you 2 hours. I'm going to give you this, right? And the reason why we do tithing, the idea of tithing, and here's a teaching on tithing, right? Teaching on tithing is this. Tithing is not a part of law. It's not a commandment from God, right? It's not. It was before the law. It was a principle done before the law. And what it does is that you take the gross income of what you make and you give 10% of your gross income to God. And the idea is that we don't give to a church. We give through a church, right? And the reason why we tithe is simply because we're saying, God, hey, we have 100%. God, I'm going to give you 10%. I'm going to give you 10% of what you've already given me. And watch this. There are two types of people in this world when it comes to tithing, right? There is a person who says they're too broke to tithe, or there's a person who says, I tithe and I'm always blessed. You're either one of those two. You can never talk to a faithful tither and say they're not blessed. You can't talk to one, right? I remember Brittany and I, when we were living in Orlando, we had a certain job. And man, we were making $800, $700 a month. $700 a month. Our rent was $700 a month, guys. I'm not sure how we made it through that season. I remember every Sunday, I would look at Brittany and say, are we going to tithe this week? Are we going to give this week? Come on. God can give me 1 week. Come on, he can give me a little grace. Come on, God. And he does. He's a gracious God. But I tell you what, us being faithful in that, man, we have been, I can't tell you how blessed my family. I have changed generations in my family because of our faithfulness to give to God. And I just want to encourage you, whether you go to this church or go to another church, man, you just be faithful in that. And I'm telling you, watch God touch the rest of your blessing. If you want to live a good life, man, you got to be a giver. You got to give your time, man. Next week, we got this outreach where we're doing Adopt the Block, where we're going out in our community. We're going to be cleaning up trash and blessing our neighbors and blessing our family and friends in this community. And the reason why we're doing that is because God's given us so much time. God, you're worthy of 2 hours to bless the community with, right? As a church, the first check that this organization has ever wrote, right? I'm really proud to say, we can always say it, was to a missions organization in Honduras, right? The first check we ever wrote. And you'll be proud to say that, right? And I'm proud to say this. We're 6 months old, right? We're a 6 months old church. And people have been asking us, how do you have all of this? How do you have 2 services and God's doing all this in only 6 months? I'll tell you why. Because we have given a lot. So as a church 6 months old, we have, and you'll be proud to hear this, we have given over $100,000 to the local schools in 6 months. People ask me, what's the secret to the good life? It's giving. Give your time and watch God bless the rest of your time. Give your talents. Watch God put you on a platform that you never thought you could have. Like if you just give, you give unto God what's his, right? He began to bless the rest. He began to take the little that you have left and bless it and multiply it. And I just want to encourage you today that if you want to live this good life, man, you got to be a blessing. It was funny, the other day, I was, a few weeks ago, we were in the building project of this building, and I was super discouraged. Super just going through a lot just with the building, dealing with contractors and dealing with the city of Richmond and all this stuff. And so one night I get a call around 9 o'clock. Hey, dude, what are you doing? Bro, I'm just hanging out. Hey, let's go to the movies. I'm like, what? You gonna take me out to the movies? All right, bro, I'll go with you. And not only are we going to the movies, hey, we're gonna Cine Bistro. Like, what? You taking me to Cine Bistro? You really love me, bro. Like, come on, somebody. Anybody ever been to Cine Bistro? They know. Y'all know. Dude said, hey, I'm going to cover your dinner too. What, you going to cover my dinner so I can order steak too? Come on, somebody. And I can order a drink? No water? Okay, I can order lemonade there. Come on, you know how it is. You know, somebody paying for you, like, sometimes you make that decision, like, oh, I'm going to get water. But they say you can go with some juice, huh? Cool. My good friend, David Jones, he took me out that night. And I tell you what, he didn't know this. I never told him this. Man, that night I was super discouraged, but when I left, I was super encouraged because somebody said, I want to give. And that wasn't his tithe. That was beyond the tithe. And I tell you what, like, I want to be people who blesses people. Like, I want to be a church who blesses church. I want to be a church who say, you know what? Like, God puts a number on your heart and you bless one of the church members with it. Just bless them. Just like, hey, here, I thought about you. Hey, take your husband out for dinner. Right? I want to be a church where you go to your work and say, you know what? Here's this gift card to Cheesecake Factory. Why? I don't know. That's what people who have the good life do. We just give. We just give, right? And I just want to do that. Like, so now, like all the schools now are emailing us, getting in line. Hey, we want to get a part of that giving that motivation is doing, right? It's funny, like my email is packed with schools of Richmond City and all the way down to Petersburg. Like churches are asking, schools are asking us for money. Here's why, because we are now getting the reputation of giving. And I just hope that that's the case for your family. I hope that's a case for your life, that you have the reputation of giving. And Jesus has the greatest reputation of giving because he gave his son. He gave his one and only son for you. And it's his gift for you and his giving that changed the world. You want to know what changed the world? Giving changed the world. You want to know what's going to change our community? Is that we as a church, we become generous and we're going to give it. Like we're just going to give it away. Here's why, because we know that complaining doesn't change the world. Giving changes the world. Serving changes the world. And our community is dealing with some stuff, and we're not going to be a church that sits out and complain about all this generation is dealing with stuff. All this world we're in is wicked. We're not going to be that church. The church that we're going to be is that we're going to say, you know what? This world may be having trouble. We may be dealing with justice issues and racial issues and sin issues, but we're not going to sit back and be still. We're going to give our way into that. And so now, like, if we got issues with race and justice, man, we're going to attack the issue, not with complaining, but with serving and with giving, right? Right? If we have issues with our marriages, we're not going to sit back and just do stuff and do nothing about it. We're going to give to it. And I want to encourage you, if you got any issue in your life, you give to it. And I'm telling you what, God began to change it. And I just want, as a church, man, I want to be a church that just gives it. And people are asking us, man, Travis, how do you have such a diverse church? Like, you don't have issues? Like, how do you have, like, Republicans and Democrats coming inside of this room and worshiping God? Like, how is it happening? How do you have white people and black people and young people and old people and teenagers and kids getting baptized? How does it happen? I'll tell you how it happens. It happens because there was a God who started this thing off, who gave his life. And as a church, we know that giving brings diversity, giving brings people together, and I pray, it is my hope that we as a church, that you as a family, you as an individual, become a giving family. Give your time into God. Man, give God some time, right? Man, give your talents. Some of you got some gifts that God has put on the inside of you, and it has been dormant for so long. God says, give me your gifts. And God says, give me your money, right? Like, give me your possessions, right? And allow me to bless the rest. It's a principle that's going to bless your life forever.